Hello my beautiful friends, it is Mimi here today, and as I sat down to film finally this video that I thought of filming for weeks now, this guy outside in the garden started cutting grass. I'm not sure if you guys can hear him, but if you can, I'm sorry, I cannot control the outdoors, and this seems to always happen when I film. Anyways, let's get started. Today's a very exciting and personal video. I've had the idea to do this, like I said, weeks ago. I just thought I really wanted to share more with you guys, more real moments and things that you guys might not see in fun videos or vlogs or, you know, talking videos or favorites videos and things like that. So I thought of all the things I still haven't shared ever publicly. And that's how I came up with 7 questions first. And then I just this morning posted on my Instagram for you guys to also contribute some questions that you would like to hear me talk about. So things that I have never, ever shared before. It's about to get real, guys. Okay, so let's get started. I have my phone here and I'm gonna look at the phone obviously because the questions are there. We'll start a little bit on the light side. All right, so first question. Have you ever saved a life? I actually saved a life a couple of times. First time, this happened years ago when we lived in our old house back in Richmond Hill in Canada. I was in the washroom doing my makeup and I heard some noise in the roof. And it was a really strange noise. It wasn't a noise of I don't know, I was gonna say an insect, but obviously you would never hear an insect unless it's like a big cockroach or something. But like I knew that was like a soul, like there's a body of some sort in there. And I was so freaked out. I had to go downstairs and get Alex. And Alex came up and he's like, who could it be? So we have this Eiffel Tower. So I remember he came with this Eiffel Tower statue and I'm like, what would you do with that? Even if a person was hiding there. But it wasn't a person. So Alex ended up opening up, there was like this little fence to a ventilation, I guess, ventilation hole or something in the roof of the washroom because that was the 2nd floor and it was a 2-story house. And as he opened that, a bird flew out of that hole and was flying frantically around the house. And I have no clue how long it's been there because, you know, sometimes we're not home for a couple of days or we're traveling. So I just remember opening all the windows in the bedroom and finding a way to get this bird out. I even filmed it. If I find it, I'll link it here, guys. But it was such a beautiful moment liberating that bird. Another time I saved a life was a bit more serious. A friend of mine shared that she was pregnant and she wasn't sure she wanted to keep the child. And I remember talking to her and, you know, walking her through the process. I obviously didn't make the decision for her, but I did want her to keep the child. And she ended up keeping the child. And it's amazing to now see this child living and thriving. And yeah, it was amazing to save that life. Next, all right. Have you ever taken drugs? So if you know me in real life, you know I'm definitely not into drugs or alcohol. I don't even really drink alcohol like ever. So, but back in the day when I was a teenager, of course, I wanted to try things out. I smoked up. Once I smoked up and I mean, somebody gave me like a marijuana and I didn't really feel anything, so maybe I just took 1 or 2, I don't even know what they're called, like when you inhale. So drugs, I took it a few times from somebody and I didn't really feel anything, so I don't think I was inhaling properly. And then another time a friend of mine was having sort of like a little party at his house. He invited me and my girlfriend, my best girlfriend at the time. So we came over and he had this hookah, which is like a shisha. It's very popular now. It's like a pipe, water pipe. And at the top of the water pipe, he put weed. And he said, yeah, you guys should try it. And I really wanted to experience what it's like to be high because I grew up in Canada and a lot of people constantly in my high school were smoking up. And although I didn't get a positive impression of that because a lot of these kids that were smoking up were doing really bad at school, were kind of lost about what they were doing in life. So I didn't really want to go into it, but I really was curious to experience what is it like to be high? So I said yes to it, and I think because it was in the water pipe, it was just more intense experience. So I tried it, and I remember at first nothing happened. Then I was like laughing hysterically, and then I was just like uber aware, so hyper aware, and I just wanted it to end, but you can't end your trip or your experience. So one thing I remember about being high is that the time goes so slow, and I kept looking at the time and like feeling like the time is not moving at all. And then we were hungry, so we wanted to go out, and like we took an elevator and it was taking forever to get down. So it definitely slows down time. And I also remember looking in the mirror at my pupils, and they were like so wide. And I was thinking, why did you do this? Why did you do this? I just want this to end. And then finally about, I think it was like 3-4 a.m. in the morning, so we didn't sleep that night. My friend drove me home while she was high. And yeah, I just remember feeling sober again slowly, and I felt so grateful. And I thought, I'm never gonna do anything ever. But I still really enjoyed, not enjoyed the experience, but I thought it was really valuable for me to also understand what other people go through. I know now weed is used for many other reasons and it's legalized, so I don't care if people do it or not. It's just not for me. I think any sort of substances that alter your reality, I'm personally not into. I love reality as it is, and that's the same reason why I also don't like to drink alcohol. And then, what else did I want to say? So another experience I had trying a drug when I used to work at a club years ago, when I was probably like in my late teens, 19 or 20, I once got given a tiny piece of ecstasy. It was maybe like a quarter of a pill, but I really didn't feel anything. So it was at a club, and it was, you know, that period of my life when I wanted to try everything. Well, not everything. As you can see, I haven't really tried much. So yeah, I tried it that one time. I didn't really feel anything. I was happy before, I was happy while I took it. And again, I kind of promised myself I want to stay clear and clean. Although like I said, I don't have any judgments for other people who do anything. I think it's your life. If you want to do whatever you want to do, as long as you're happy, you can keep on doing it. I personally love reality, being sober, and I just in general feel quite high already, so I think that's why for me drugs just don't work. And yeah, so next question. Have you ever witnessed birth? I have witnessed birth when Adriana, my niece, was born. So my sister was pregnant. Obviously she was pregnant to give birth to a baby. So I knew that her due date was around October, the end of October. So Alex and I went to Toronto to be able to be there while she was giving birth. And it was really exciting because the baby actually came almost on the due date. I think she was, her due date was 27th of October and she was born on the 28th. Literally, so she was born, I think at 1 or 2 a.m. And the experience was crazy. It was surreal to see a human life come into this world. What I was really surprised about, I really wasn't grossed out by blood or, I don't know, all of this situation, because even so many men like pass out, freak out, they cannot see it. I stood there completely fascinated by the whole experience, and I was watching everything. You know, at some point the baby was not in the right position, so the doctor actually had to come in, insert her hand and twist the baby, and I was looking at everything. And then eventually Layla was able to push the baby out and Adriana came out, and it was like an incredible moment that I can't even put into words. It's like life that just enters this world, and it's emotional and it's intense and it's so beautiful. Like people who do this daily, doctors and nurses and midwives, they probably are on such a high, natural high. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. Now, next question. Have you ever witnessed death? And this is something I also realized I've never ever talked about. And I have witnessed death more than once in my life. First time was when I was 10, and I might get a little emotional because I haven't really talked about this with many people in my life. Like, I think even a lot of my friends don't know the story. So when I was 10, first of all, I had a really close relationship with my grandpa. I loved him so much. He loved me. We had like a special bond. You know, I think all of us who are blessed to even experience our grandparents, because they're still alive in our lives, have that one grandparent that favorites you or has that special relationship with you. So that was definitely my grandfather from my father's side, because I never met my other grandfather. I think I did, but I was too young. He passed away when I was very little. So this grandpa always gave me sweets and took us out, and he was so like caring and kind, and yeah, so he was very healthy and he was still working. He was in his 70s, maybe 71 or 72 when he passed away. And it was a beautiful day in March. I think it was March 10th. And we were over at my grandparents, and we just had really nice lunch. And my mom and my grandma went into the kitchen or some other room, and my sister and I were in the room with my grandfather. He was in his chair, the television was on, he was watching TV, like all very happy because he just ate. And then I remember we told him, this is the last thing we asked him, we said, Grandpa, can you please take us to America? Because it was our dream to like go to North America, to the US. And he knew that, and he was just there like maybe a few years before for work. And he said, I will. And literally moments after this happened, we turned around and he died, like right in front of our face. He just, you know, it was kind of like he was starting coughing, and then he closed his eyes, and I just remember staring at him and thinking, oh my God, like my heart is beating really fast right now. I've been talking about this because, yeah, I haven't really shared this with many people. Yeah, so it was really tough to see that at 10 years old, and to see the life vanish, and then the shell, his body just there on the couch. Yeah, it was very, very difficult. I think, sorry, try not to get emotional so I can speak, but I think it really affected me in a way because it made me right away from such a young age put life into perspective, and that nothing is really guaranteed, that every little moment is so special and so precious, and to really remember that life is a gift, and everything can be taken away in a moment. So it is a bit depressing to think of it that way, but I think when you do think of it that way, it makes you also appreciate life and not screw around and not spend it with negative people who don't treat you well. I think it just puts things into perspective and make you value every single moment and every single life, every single day, and it's definitely what it has done to me. It took me a while to recover from it, and I remember actually at the time it happened, my sister and I, we didn't cry at all. We just stayed kind of like shocked, and I'm still processing that event, I think, for sure, to this day. So maybe sharing this now is gonna help me process and let go of that as well. So yeah, let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is a bit lighter one. Have you ever stolen... Oh, and I forgot to mention the second time I witnessed death, because it happened twice. And also second time was with my sister. It was our cat Mishka, who passed away. He was, I think, around 15 years old. So Mishka even got to meet Alex, which is how long he was in our life. We got him in Baku, Azerbaijan. And then when we moved to Canada, we brought Mishka with us. And then I think he had some kind of a kidney failure or something. And we tried to take him to all sorts of vets, and you know, they told us we need to put him down, but we kept kind of stretching that time because it was heartbreaking. We couldn't make that decision. And then one morning he just passed away. And again, it just happened right there. And it was a crazy experience to see the soul leave the body. It's almost like his body lifted and it stayed in this shape. I can't even explain it, like as if it was looking up. And you can see the moment the soul leaves the body is like completely useless. It's like a shell, nothing but an empty shell, which makes you realize definitely we are all energy. Like that's what makes the body animated and real and alive. So yeah, okay, moving on to a lighter question now, but also quite a deep one. So the next question is, have you ever stolen anything? I want to say this is really hard actually for me to share a lot of these questions, but I think it can be also very valuable to a lot of you guys who have went through similar experiences, and we can all relate on so many different levels. So I have stolen in my life a couple of times. So the first time I stole a gum when I was really, really young. I think I might have been 6 or 7 at the most. And I was in a supermarket and I just remember like stealing a little piece of gum, because gums used to, I don't know if anybody still chews gum. I stopped chewing gum when I realized gums have aspartame like years ago. But yeah, that was the first time I stole something. And then the second time I stole something, I was probably in my late teens, really, really broke and really wanted to like dress up and have all these things that I couldn't afford at the time because my family had very little money. And I was broke, like working. I don't think I actually worked at the time. Maybe I started my fast food job. I used to work at a fast food as a cashier. Anyway, so this is the time. So what I did is I went to the store that, you know, sells these, it's not a discount items, but like they take, let's say, brand names, but not really super expensive brand names, and then they discount them. So I went into the shop and I left my shoes and I put on the shoes that were at the store, like a brand new pair, and I walked out. And I walked out into the parking lot, and right away I felt so horrible about what I have done, but too ashamed to go back and switch my shoes again because I thought I could get caught. So I just stood there completely embarrassed in that parking lot and thinking, I will never, ever, ever steal in my life. I literally promised and swore to myself that this is the only time this will happen to me. And yes, I have never stolen after that. But it's definitely an impactful story in my life. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Biggest fear you have? Gosh, these are all very deep questions. Even though I thought of them, I didn't really allow myself to think of how I'm going to answer them. So biggest fear I do have in my life is the fear of the unknowns. And you can say the ultimate fear of the death, what happens to us when this life ends and perhaps a new one starts. But it is reflected in all of these experiences in life where I have to let go of control because the circumstances are unknown. For example, even though I can swim physically, like I know how to do the motions. I actually couldn't swim until I met Alex and he taught me how to swim. So I know how to swim. If you put me in the shallow end of the pool or the ocean or the sea, I'm fully capable of swimming. But the moment I cannot touch the ground, I panic. I cannot float on my back unless somebody may be holding me. Even if somebody's holding me, I just can't seem to let go and trust the unknown, which is everything in life if you think about it. Everything is unknown. And yeah, that's been something that I've been faced with on my whole journey of life. And I guess that's what I've been working on internally my whole life, is learning to let go, learning to trust, and ultimately learning, yeah, to trust that everything is going to be taken care of, that I am taken care of. So yeah, that's my biggest fear, is just having the unknowns in life and ultimately like the unknown of death, like what happens to us after. And many people can have different theories. We have 7 billion people on planet Earth who all have different theories, but in reality, nobody really knows, and that's the truth. Nobody goes there and comes back, you know. And some people do go, like they have coma or this and that, but still they're, yeah, anyways, it's all debatable. I think until this journey ends, we don't really know until we're there. All right, let's go to the next one, which is a much lighter one. And this one is your biggest dream that you have. Where is it? Biggest fear? Yeah, biggest dream you have. And I have so many dreams. So I think I'm gonna share with you guys a couple, or at least a few. So it depends on what area of my life. So internally, my biggest dream is connected to my biggest fears. Learn to trust the unknown, learn to float in the ocean and like jump off a boat in a deep end and trust that I'm going to float, trust that unknown. And I believe when I learn to do that, I will be a lot calmer, peaceful human being. And yeah, that's something that I'm definitely envisioning myself in as my biggest dream. Internally, that is what I strive for and I dream about. Externally, I would love, I don't think I've ever shared this, but I will now. I would love, I think one of my biggest, there's so many guys. So one of my biggest dreams is to have a fashion line, a sustainable fashion line that has minimal environmental impact on the world and is connected to social giving, so giving to orphanages, because it's very, very close and dear to my heart. It's something I've always wanted to help with, is orphans. Like, it just breaks my heart. I'm gonna cry again. Breathe, Mimi. That there are children in this world who, you know, have no mom, no dad, and they're just abandoned, you know. It just, I can't even think about it. I start crying usually. So that's one, definitely. And then another dream of mine that I say I will do one day when I'm like really, really old. I obviously don't have to be old to do this, but like when at the point of my life where I don't have to do anything else, like I've already done everything I feel like I've needed to in this lifetime, I'm just gonna go on these world tours around the world, just hugging people, because that's one of my favorite things to do, especially when I do meetups and meet you guys in person. I just love the moment after we do the talks on stage or whatever, when I get to meet you guys in person and I get to like squeeze and hug every single one of you. And sometimes I hold that hug for like 5 to 10 seconds. And it just feels so good to hug another human being. I don't know. And I just like transfer love, and I feel like it comes back to me. And yeah, I would love to do that. There's this Indian woman, a lot of you guys probably know her. I can't remember her name. I think it's Amma or something. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. That's what she does. I don't know much about her, but I remember when we lived in Toronto, she was on a tour there, and people would literally line up for hours to meet this woman and just be hugged by her. So I thought at the time, how cool of a gig would that be? I would love to go around the world hugging people, because I genuinely love people. I have so much love in my heart to share, and I don't feel like I do that right now day to day. So yeah, one day I would love to do that like all the time. Okay, so moving on to the next question. That's a funny one. So, most embarrassing thing that have ever happened to you. There's quite a few embarrassing things that have happened to me, but I will just share one and let you have a good laugh on your side. So this is, again, years ago when I was probably around 11, 12. I had a crush on this boy, and it was funny because my friend and we had a crush on the same boy. My friend Fidan back home in Baku, Azerbaijan. This is when I used to live there still. And it was like, it was a break. So everybody was out of the classrooms and in this long hallway. And at the end of the hallway, I see my crush. He's standing there with his friend. So we're walking towards him. And I'm like, you know, trying to walk all nice, you know, fix my hair. And as I'm walking, I don't see that there's an open door of one of the classrooms. So I'm talking to my friend, I'm glancing over at him, talking to her, and then I walk into the freaking door. I like face walk into this door. It was one of the most embarrassing, horrible things that happened. I mean, at the moment, it's embarrassing. You move on, who cares? I mean, he didn't even care about me, I'm sure, you know. He was an older boy, like he was 15, I think, and we were like 10, 11. So I'm sure he had a good laugh at that, but he didn't know I had a crush on him, or maybe he did, I don't know. Anyways, it was super duper embarrassing. Until this day, I remember that. How could I walk into a door in front of my crush? All right, first kiss, who, when, and where. So this is a funny story too. My first kiss actually wasn't like a special, like, oh, this was a high school sweetheart that I had. No, it was, I think I was about 16 years old. I was working at a fast food at the time, just trying to put the picture together. And there was this boy I met online, and we had our first date. And it was, again, super embarrassing because he met me at this bus stop, and we were supposed to go to this restaurant together. He invited me to like a really like simple restaurant, like nothing fancy, you know. Nando's, actually, so a lot of you guys would know Nando's. So we were walking down this long street called Yonge Street. It's the longest street, I think, in the world, or definitely in Toronto or in Canada. So we're walking on Yonge Street, and as I'm walking with this guy that I just met, because you know, it was our first date, I hear somebody's honking the car, and it was my dad. And it was like, what? But he was like driving fast. So anyways, my dad saw me. Then my dad's friend, who was also the father of my friend, he was driving with her in the car, and they honked at us because they saw us. So basically, so many people saw us, and I already felt super embarrassed. And then we actually had a really lovely date. He was super sweet and kind. And then when we came out, he gave me a kiss, kind of like a really quick, awkward ones. And that was it. Actually, I didn't go on a second date with him. I didn't really feel it. But so yeah, I don't have a magical story for you. So it didn't have a happy ending with Miles. That was his name. I do remember his name, but I will always remember it still. It was my first kiss. And then the next question is the last question as well. And this one is quite big. I believe you guys asked me this before, but I'm not sure I've ever answered this question on my YouTube channel. So the question is, do you believe in God? And it's a big question because, you know, I try to steer away from talking about religion and politics and things like that on YouTube. But I think when we talk about God in general, it's quite a big idea. And I can honestly speak about that from my point of view. So when I talk about God, because we're speaking English language and God has a certain meaning, I will say, yes, I do definitely believe in a certain higher power. I don't have an attachment to the word God because to me, words have certain impressions or pictures. Like when you say God, let's say in an English language or Russian language, Bog, you sort of envision this male figure, and that's not how I feel about that higher power. So I prefer a lot of times to use the word higher power or universe instead of God, because to me, higher power or universe is more like well-rounded. It's not just masculine or feminine, it's like both, and that's how I feel about that higher power. I definitely believe in the higher power. Man, it is powerful, and I'm learning actually to reestablish and have a deeper connection to it and a better relationship with it, because for many years I feel like I was disconnected from it. I wasn't really practicing you know, anything. And not that I'm practicing now anything, but for me, doing consistent meditation and going internally connects me to that higher power, the creator of all. So now I'm starting to meditate again regularly, because I've been like on and off meditating since I had Alexa, you know, had a really hard time making time for myself. And now I'm really prioritizing myself. And the more I connect to myself, the more I connect to the higher power, the happier, more peaceful I feel. So yes, I definitely believe in it. And that is all for this lovely tag of things I have never shared before. Now I would love to actually tag some of my friends here on YouTube. I'm going to tag Alex Ikonn. I'm going to tag Valeria Lipanetsky. I'm going to tag Alex Santomo. I'm going to tag Annie Jeffrey and Amelia Liana. So now you guys have been tagged. Go let them know that they're tagged, by the way, too. And then I want you guys to answer one of these questions down below as well, so I can get to know you guys a little better. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know how you've enjoyed this video, and if you'd like me to do a part 2, because you guys submitted some funny questions and I just can't get to all of them. Otherwise, this video is gonna be 3 hours long. So let me know if you'd like to see part 2. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!